order the meeting of the Lancaster Criminal Justice Commission at 10:04 a.m. First up, I would like to ask the staff to do roll call.
Commissioners Brown,
Present.
Harris,
Present.
Herr,
Present.
Madrano, absent, Vice Chair Little,
Present.
Chairman Mercy.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Invocation, I'd like to ask Pamela Balch from Assemblyman. Oh, is that, am I on? No, for our invocation, I'd like to invite Pamela Balch from Assemblyman Lackey's office to lead our prayer.
Lord God, we thank you for the opportunity we have to be about the protection of the people in Lancaster and the Antelope Valley. We just ask that your blessing would be upon each of your servants here, Lord God, and that everything that we say and do honor you. Thank you and ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Okay, thank you. And our new Public Safety Director, Roderick Armelin, will lead our Pledge of Allegiance.
Everybody place your hand on your heart, right hand on your heart. Repeat after me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, do we have any presentations? Okay, consent calendar, we have approval of the minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? Is there any objection to adopting or approving the consent calendar as presented? Hearing none, consent calendar is approved. Commission staff presentations, updates, and reports. LA County Sheriff's Department. Deputy Green, I saw you online recently doing a little dance.
I had a feeling you were going to bring that up. What happened was, it took a lot of rehearsal and I still failed epically.
Looked great.
Yeah, that's fine. We can start with the Crime Commission report. Awesome. Okay. My name is Deputy Lawrence Green. I am your Community Relations Deputy for Lancaster Sheriff's Station. I've been with the station probably about 6 years. I've been with the department. It'll be 8 years on August 21st. My primary roles and responsibilities are to interact with the community in a positive manner, answer any questions or concerns while I am out having that interaction. Today I'll be going over the Crime Commission report along with the comp stats for the city of Lancaster, as well as the LEAPS report. We're going to start with the Crime Commission report for the month of June. We always go 2 months back because that gives you the most accurate numbers. It takes time for stats to build up and get accurate numbers, so we usually go back about 2 months to give you the most accurate numbers. So for the month of June, we're going to go with our burglary stats. In May, we had 72 total burglaries. We are way down now in June to 30. We had 28 residential. And then we had 58, I'm sorry, I must have messed up on those numbers. I apologize. I forgot to update the residential numbers. For residential, bear with me. Sorry, let's see if I get the residential numbers for you. Here we go. We're averaging around 56 for burglaries, okay? Just so you know for residential. Commercial is 58. The burglaries will change periodically as believe it or not, the temperatures change. As temperatures go down, these type of crimes will go down as well. Being outside, Mother Nature is fierce, right? So regardless if you commit crimes or not, cold weather is cold weather and it will affect you. So it will change up and down. Also, as far as burglary, our robbery team and burglary team tend to hit the organized type crime style burglaries, which will reduce the amount of stats drastically month to month. So if there's a certain amount of people that are going around burgling commercial buildings, it's usually the same people. Our team gets together, hits the spots and finds out who's doing it, and then the crime stats change dramatically the next month because now the burglaries subside. For the next slide, oops, sorry, Robberies. Total robberies will be 38 for the month of June. Armed 20, strong arm 18. In the month of May, we had 23 and 22 for armed and strong armed, which means we're down slightly for robberies for the month of June. Next slide. We had a huge thing going on in the month of June where I was assigned to. It's called the Community Academy. The Community Academy allows community members, any community member, to experience what it's like to be in the life of a deputy. So we pretty much make them a deputy, and we put them through scenarios. We actually put them through classes where they learn narcotics, where they learn how certain things work within the department. And then at the end of the term, which is about I want to say 2.5 months long, once a week, they go through a scenario. So we will make them do a traffic stop. We will make them go respond to a domestic violence situation, a person with mental illness, and see how they respond and how they handle the situation. It's a huge success. We usually do it every year, but because of COVID, everything subsided. So we had to take a pause. We hadn't done one for 2 years. We're restarting this again, and a huge success. The community loves it. They get a whole nother aspect of how law enforcement works and responds to tense, drastically changing situations. So we will continue to do this, and we do have one every year. We alternate between stations. So Lancaster Station was assigned to it this year, and the next one will be Palmdale Station. So, but anybody from either city can join, and we usually do 15 from each station, 15 applicants, which gives you a total of 30. So we sometimes exceed that. Actually, I'm sorry, 25 per station, so a total of 50. This last class was about 43, around there, give or take. Some people do drop out because they don't realize how much time they normally have in order to succeed with the Community Academy. At the end of the academy, the captain will present a certificate for them of accomplishment, and it is a fantastic thing to see, even on both ends. Even for me, I like to see how people respond to these type of situations. So that's what we did for the month of June. Any questions on that? Yes.
Any of those class graduates, they become volunteers at Sheriff's Station?
Some are. I have about 3 applications for regular volunteers, but what I need right now are Community Advisory Committee volunteers. We have a lot of volunteers at the station, not saying that we don't need more. We will always need more, but what I'm looking for are Community Advisory Committee people. So if anybody knows anybody that might be interested in joining the Community Advisory Committee, please send them my way, and I will get them a volunteer application because they are considered a volunteer.
What does that consist of?
Yeah.
Sorry. So the Community Advisory Committee is a liaison. It is a conduit between the community and law enforcement. We have things going on within law enforcement that we do, and we want to make sure that the information that is gathered or received does not change in between or get modified. If a major incident happens, we communicate with the Community Advisory Committee, who then goes and refers to the community about what actually happened instead of hearsay or third-party information that isn't true. So we go back and forth. If there's a community concern, it goes to the Community Advisory Committee. The Community Advisory Committee brings it to our meetings that we have once a month, and we address the situation there to make sure that everything is we are all on the same page to bridge this gap.
How many people are on that committee?
So far, we only have, Sean is one of them. How many do we have total, Sean?
Say
4. And I need minimum 12 is what we require, was what we would like. So if you have anybody that might be interested, please, we will definitely, they have to be non-biased. I want a neutral party, so that way we can get things.
Was there an age?
We would like youth as well.
Okay.
I would like youth. If you have anybody under 18, I will definitely need a parent consent. But young adults are preferred. But anybody of any age can join. So. All right, we're going to move on to our comp stats. If we don't have any, do you have any additional questions regarding the Bergen robbery? Okay. Comp stats for the city of Lancaster. Homicides, we're going to be holding at 2 for the month of June. We're going to go over to our rapes. Rapes are down for the month of June, averaging around 6. Robberies, they are going to be slightly down, averaging around 26. Aggravated assaults over a period of a year have gone up slightly, averaging 79. Domestic violence-related aggravated assaults over a period of a year have gone up. Domestic violence obviously is prevalent on summertime when everybody's off school, so you know the kids are in the house, people are on vacation. So when you're with your family, some people, you know, can't handle being around their family too long. So these tend to go up during summer and during holidays. Burglaries over a period of a year have gone down. For the month of June, we're averaging 56. Larceny and thefts have gone down, which is a surprise for summertime, so that's a good thing, averaging 107. Grand theft vehicle over a period of a year gone down, averaging 91. Arsons over a period of a year have also gone down, averaging 4. And these are your hot spots for the month of June. From what I see, just west of 20th Street West, in your business district, Avenue J is a really dark hot spot. Those are your Part 1 crimes, larceny, theft, things of that nature, which have gone up, of course, always usually in a business district. What we do is we tend to hit those hot spots, knock them down for the month, and the hot spot will change month to month. The objective, honestly, is to increase the amount of time someone gets for larceny and theft, but we don't have the ability to do that. We only have the ability to make the arrest, and we'll leave it up to the DA to decide from there. Any questions? These are your crime definitions. For those of you who do not know what each type of crime is, we have put it on there for you. Criminal homicide, forcible rape, robbery, aggravated assault, burglary, larceny, theft, motor vehicle theft, and arson. All definitions are in this presentation should you want to know what the categories are and how they work as far as whether or not if you have a crime. If you guys don't have any further questions, that'll be it for the comp stats for the city of Lancaster.
Did we receive an email copy of this? Okay, thank you.
Right, all crime stats are from LARCIS 5C in accordance with FBI Uniform Crime Reporting. Per UCR rules, violent crimes are counted by the number of victims and not incidents. We now have our LEAPS presentation that I will go going over. For those of you who do not know what LEAPS is, it is a manned airplane that flies over the city. Hours are distributed to the pilot. It's not a full-time situation, but it is an awesome resource that the city has provided us, allowing us for technically our own aero unit, which is that helicopter that we usually have. But because that helicopter is based out of the city, sometimes it's not available. So the city has provided us with this program, which is amazing resource. It does a lot for us, and it allows us to actually increase our arrest stats as well, because we can track the bad guy without actually having to, respond via lights and sirens and endanger others in the streets and on the roads. So what we'll be doing is we'll be going over the LEAPS progress report. Instead of me reading word for word, I'm going to be addressing the green squares on the right-hand side on the first page. Bear with me here. So on the right, LEAPS assisted in 12 arrests, 27 traffic stops, 14 burglaries and robberies, 42 fights and assaults, 9 persons with the guns, and 36 other offenses in suspicious circumstances. On the next page, 40% of those calls were involving people, 8% involving arrests and detentions, 9% involving property, 19% involving vehicles, and 18 were just observations as they were flying over the city. The plane can go a lot farther now with the better reception of the new tower that was installed. So we're able to go out a little farther, even as far as Lake LA and Antelope Acres. So before we were limited to the city. So we're slowly progressing and getting new technology installed into the program. The more technology we have installed in this, the better our results will be for this LEAPS program. I hope it continues. It is a blessing to the city, and I just am very thankful for it every time. Any questions regarding the LEAPS program?
So just to have a clear understanding of how LEAPS works, basically if there's a domestic violence call and the deputies on scene and someone actually leaves the house, that's when they're called, and then,
Well-
are they involved in every chase?
Well, they are actually up and flying over. So when the pilot is up and flying over, and they don't have to be responding to any call, they're circling the city. And the pilot not only is getting their hours in, but they're up and overhead. The camera is so strong that it can zoom in on any point in the city within seconds. So if a domestic violence situation occurs and the suspect flees in a gray Nissan two-door with maybe some type of decal that they can see from the top, then we can just give them the last known direction, and they can zoom in that cross street and then follow that car as we're responding to the location to get more information. So we can track the vehicle before we even get to the call. And that way, if we do have a valid domestic violence situation, that vehicle is eventually going to park or maybe hit a freeway, but at least we can track it and then follow the suspect and maybe make the arrest right then and there instead of having to do follow-up for the detective.
Deputy Green, under the LEAPS program, are they hearing all calls at all times?
Yes, they actually have so the way it works is in our dispatch center, we have a person that runs the camera system. The camera system is linked to the airplane. So what happens is the guy or girl that's inside of the actual dispatch is listening to all the calls for service going out. Once we have something that looks like LEAPS can help out, what we'll do is we'll put in an address to the actual person in the airplane. The airplane will then receive the address, and then I can actually zoom in. The airplane can fly over that location in the general area, and then me having access to the camera, that means the LEAPS operator inside of the dispatch can then zoom in on that cross street or that area. So it's communication via text to the operator or the pilot for a general area where our concern is, and then the person inside of dispatch has full control over the camera.
So at that point in time, you're kind of controlling that camera.
Yes, and we're actually zooming in, zooming out. I'm looking around. I was trained on LEAP, so I did it for quite a while, and you can do a lot with it. We have night vision as well. It's not too good, but we do have night vision as well. But the problem is getting operators up in the air. That's where the concern is. We need to get more hours where the plane can operate longer throughout the day of the 3 shifts.
And how many hours a day is it operating now?
I believe 3 hours or 5, I'm sorry, 5 hours.
5 hours, 7 days a week?
No, only 5 days a week, 5 hours a day.
And do the 5 days rotate, or is it always Monday through Friday?
I'm not in there anymore to find out how often they're in there, but is there particular days? Thursday through Monday.
Let's just say 7 days a week for.
Oh, I would love it. I would love it. Oh, man, yeah, I mean, it's a blessing when it's up. Yeah.
We don't want to let anybody know when it's not on.
Well, they have to fuel for gas, but, you know,
Right,
that would
so
be amazing if we can
It's
get
up
it
there all
up
the
and
time.
going. Any questions, additional questions on the LEAPS program? No? That will be my presentation for Lancaster Sheriff Station. Thank you.
A couple of just unrelated questions.
Yes.
I actually was talking with the captain this morning. I mean, it seems like some of the hotspots for prostitution have just gone off the line. I'm driving by in the daytime. Oh, excuse me, driving by in the daytime and seeing, I actually saw one where the sheriff's vehicle was there. And I understand there's a change in law that could make the issue worse coming up, and just want to educate the public and our commission as to what's happening there. And as a heads up to our legislative reps, I know it's a new bill if you want to double check, but be good to let everyone know how our representatives voted on that bill.
Yes, it's very difficult as far as prostitution is concerned because there's certain ways you have to go about it. It's not legal to stand out on the sidewalk in very, low clothing as long as you're clothed. That's not a crime. So you have to find the elements of prostitution, which is what validates the crime. So that's why there's specialized teams that deal with this type of event, because you can't just stop someone for being dressed in a bathing suit on the sidewalk. It's not illegal. You need more to it. So we have specialized teams that will be addressing the situation to confirm the crime and actually get it dealt with after they get arrested and it goes to the DA. So once it goes to the DA is going to request specific things to make sure they have enough of the element to secure the crime, because it's so vague on when the prostitution is actually completed versus them fishing, I guess you can say, for a John. So
Chairman Mercy, I might be able to clarify that a little bit. Law enforcement has changed our perspective on how we enforce prostitution because of the nature of the crime and the fact that it's extremely transient. The folks that are actually committing the actual offense, we're viewing those folks as victims in most cases, because the history of it currently, what we're looking at is in a bigger picture is that those folks that are on the street committing the crime, the ones that we actually see, are not the recipients of any of the profit of that crime.
They're
So-
often human trafficking
Yeah,
victims, essentially.
for the most part, it's viewed as a human trafficking issue. So I believe that's why the legislature has moved in the way they have to change the laws regarding that. Misguided or not, I think that's why they're moving that way. There's many other ordinances and laws that we're gonna be able to put into effect to help stem the tide of that.
Yeah, and my concern with some of these new changes is just that it takes away tools
Yes.
for you, for both of you gentlemen, to help these victims get into a program to actually rescue them.
One of the things I think, though, because we're looking at it from a different angle, the community is also looking at it from a different angle of how they'd like to alleviate the problem. Recently, a couple of the churches in the area purchased some of what we would consider a magnet for that criminal activity. A couple of the rundown hotels, and they're going to, in their purchasing and rehabbing of those hotels, they are going to alleviate the human trafficking issue as well as provide services for the homeless community, and improve the look of the area, because the facilities won't be run down anymore. So the community taking part in solving the problem may end up being a more effective way than using the law to do it for this specific issue.
Well, that's good to hear. Thank you.
any additional questions?
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, probation.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Some good things to report and some things that we have some difficulty with. Right now, we're in a little bit of an emergency situation with the department where a lot of our deputies that are in the field are being deployed to the juvenile halls because of issues in our juvenile division, lack of staff, retaining, things in custody, law changes, slow filings on some of these kids that are technically adults now. I think we're having housing people up to 25, mostly young men. So with the changes in laws and with the closure of many rehabilitation camps that we had over the years, decades, we have just a lack of ability to have staffing. So a lot of our field deputies are being deployed into the juvenile halls and somewhere in downtown and central. Last month we had just an AB 109. We had 26 releases for orientation, which means that there was 26 releases that were placed into our program out of the prison system or county jail. If they were sentenced to prison but did their time in county jail, we would receive them also. Like I said, a couple highlights. The juvenile field office over on Division north of K last month had a community resource fair that seemed to be well received by the community, trying to assist them with various things throughout for the community. Just an outreach for those that are not aware of the ability that they even have resources that they could use. anywhere from vaccinations to housing and so on. We're losing a couple of POs just from retirement and things of that nature. We're down to 14 active POs in our office. That does include juvenile or the courthouse. They're averaging around 32 cases. They're mostly intense supervision. But they're holding it up even though they're being deployed. So the candle's burning at both ends. But they're staying strong on how they're balancing their work week with everything that still exists in our workplace. The MRU, the Mobile Resource Unit, is out today in the Little Rock area out on 87th East and T. I just just text one of our deputies that coordinates it. He says they're getting a nice flow of people reporting, and we like to look at it as a opportunity for open air reporting also with COVID still in existence in how we do things. The open air has allowed, and we're still trying to fine tune locations. The 87th and Avenue T East out in Little Rock seems to be servicing the Parablossom, Lake LA, further East Palmdale, in the Little Rock area fairly well. So we're getting people to report out there, and then also joined, as I may have mentioned in the past, where we have one of our co-locators in Health Right 360 that also offers services in housing. We placed 7 people in housing last month out of our office. Like I said, some good things are happening, increasing the rate of reporting compliance. We're seeing more and more people as our doors have opened. It's been a trickle effect until now where we're starting to see even more. The more communication we have, the more opportunity we have to assist them in staying on track. We've had about 8 early terminations, which means they're eligible by state law within 6 months after probation, providing they're doing all the top criteria, things such as if they have mental health, or will have to receive a letter of support, and even though they may be eligible to be off probation early, that they can continue their services through mental health if they choose to, things of that nature. Right now, we have approximately 444 cases just out of our office. The good thing is that we're starting to change some things with technology. We have initiated video conferencing in the state prisons. We're simply saying that what happens when someone's getting ready to get released, instead of having to go through this and this and this person to finally get your probation officer of record who's going to actually supervise you, we will meet with that person in a video conference. They'll be assigned to you, and then so even while they're in custody, they already are aware who their probation officer is going to be, and so the relationship and the rapport building begins at that point instead of until they get out and they have this anxiety of who's going to be my probation. And remember, the people that we supervise normally have been long-term in the system, so they've had experiences, good and bad. And so when they do get out, now they know initially, right off the bat, about a month prior to them being released, they get to meet you firsthand, face-to-face on a video screen and ask you questions. There we're allowed 30 minutes to do a brief orientation and just to kind of initiate the interaction at that point. So that has become, that's being initiated at the moment, and so we should be up and running at 100%, hopefully in the next 3 to 6 months throughout the division. And like I said, our compliance rate has been much better than it has because of all the intangibles with COVID and reporting in by phone and things of that sort. We're now starting to rebuild that face-to-face, and so that's becoming more efficient, in my opinion. And that's where we're at the moment. We had very few violations last month, which is a good sign. I know Mr. Hurd helped us with one of our clients at a drug court get employed, and so they're still working with that and things of that nature. So we appreciate that. Every little bit helps, and it gives the folks that are working are actually doing well. So the 10% of our guys that are actually working full-time are actually doing quite well in their jobs. They're stable. They have good jobs, they're making decent money, and they're able to travel to their jobs and maintain some stability and get into their own personal houses and things of that nature as they try to rebuild their families. So there's some good things going on.
How
And
many
that's all I got.
probation officers are you down, you said? I'm sorry.
We've lost 8
Wow.
out of our office in the last year.
So what happens about trying to replace them, or what's the option?
Because the caseloads, the actual yardstick for our office is 40 clients per probation officer. We're at 32 to
33,
33.
yeah.
So, we're still about, 20% below. But with deployment, it's kind of has had its effect. And, we try our best to make sure that we communicate with them to do things. And so a lot of times, every day we have what we call an officer of the day that takes all the walk-ins and things and phone calls. So sometimes they're happy to step up and they're going to see more clients than they would average do if we were at full strength and we didn't have deployment. So it's teamwork and it's helping. Like right now we have 4 people out of the office. They're all out in Little Rock. They're stationed out there at the mobile resource unit and assisting, obviously for safety reasons and for just to promote to the community that we're out and about and we're not, we're trying to be proactive instead of reactive. And I think that's kind of the nature of our business more now than ever.
What's an average time of a parolee that's, that you keep watch on for how long?
So in AB 109, it's set up where they have a 3-year max, 36 months. However, in 12 months, they can get off if they have no custodial sanctions, no new arrests, no violations, and no, disappearing. We refer to them as absconding or desertions. And then so we try to keep them. And then state law allows us to let someone who's really done well, that hits all the high points of their conditions of probation, they're actually eligible within 6 months. With the exception of people that have, say, domestic violence classes, they have a 52-week mandatory, they're not going to be considered for early release. If they have, the tricky part is if they have a very serious violent past, we still have to overlook that somewhat as long as they're not in the similar path of doing things. So that communication is vital. So it's going to be the support of the probation officer, any type of resource that they may be using, including mental health, that they're on track and they're actually reporting and doing their thing. So
If there's an infraction on those individuals, is time added?
time won't be added if it's an infraction, depending on the infraction. Obviously, if it's violent, there'll be a violation, so the infraction's out the window. However, they will be sanctioned and will be documented and noted that they'll get a written sanction saying, this is something that will hold an abeyance to somewhat, but it could come back. So if, as a supervisor, if I was to get a case where someone had a sanction or two, maybe drug use or something that is historically been an issue, they're probably not going to be eligible, in my opinion, to be released early or determined. Even though there's no custodial sanction, they're still tinkering in that path of self-destruction or what's led them to the criminal behavior in the past. So we do our best to remind them that there's certain things that are really important. So even though there's a sanction there, they may get a sanction or infraction, as you call it, from missing appointments, just being inconsistent with being consistent, I should say,
Right.
as far as reporting and having that resource. Again, we believe that the more we see you, the more we interact, the better chance you have of success
Right.
and staying out of the system.
Being that marijuana is legal, if it is someone that has drug charges and that's been their primary problem, are they still not allowed to use marijuana even though it's legal? Or how does that?
Technically, no, even if they have a medical card. Because again, usually it's that point where it's led to other type of behaviors to support the habit. They try, but because it's still considered a condition of their probation by the courts in a law. We don't, it's like the prostitutes thing, we don't enforce it as much as we may have in the past, but we do try our best to convince them that this is a deterrent of their successful pathway. So we try to work with that. And we have, the good thing about our office is that we have an on-site drug counselor. And then if we feel that there's someone that's using still or continuously using or coming in looking like they may be under the influence of some type of narcotic or controlled substance, we can send them to that person and they'll assess them right on the spot. And that's through Tarzana. So they actually have an office in our building where they can actually assess them there and have immediate, and their expertise will follow through and tell us if we need to pursue it any further. So It's about the helping the resource versus the, okay, you're going back to jail because of X, Y, and Z. So we try to use that avenue as best we can. You're welcome, sir.
Losing these youth camps, is that what you guys had to close down? Did I understand that correctly?
Yeah, they closed down 80% of them. We only have, I think, a couple in the East LA region, the county of LA, that are left. Unfortunately, my experience when I worked in detention or rehabilitation, you know, we had boot camps, we had fire camps, we had a lot of successful programs that maybe now in today's world, because we didn't have the data collection that we have now where we count everything, we didn't have the support in writing. But overall, I would, if you asked anybody, I think we were very successful in those programs, and they just went away. And it's really unfortunate.
That's kind of what I was guessing, is that those are probably one of the most effective programs available, and targeting people at an age when they can really use some help. And what's the solution? How do we get those back?
Well, it's always going to be politics and money, I think, and someone to show the resource that they are valuable. Obviously, we don't have as, you know, just down the street at Challenger when it was first opened, I think in '91, we had 700 kids there. We don't have 700 kids in the system anymore. We probably have a few hundred. And the problem with that is that, you know, back in the day when we had behavior and we dealt with it and we taught them to be young men, young women, they were respectful, and the drug, it was referred to as drug treatment boot camp. So we had drug treatment and they went to boot camp. So it was very military style, and kids loved it. You know, I'll give you a quick story. The other day, about a month or so at my house, a guy walks in to do some work for the gas company at my house, and the guy says, "Hey, I know you. You're Mr. Sepulveda." I said, "I am." He goes, "You were my counselor 25 years ago, and you know, you really helped me a lot. And you know, I have a job, I have a family, I go to church, and you know, and those are the stories that we hear. Those are our success stories." And he's 40-some years old now, so either I'm getting old or he just aged faster than most. But you know, we plan to have lunch one day, you know, and just kind of chat and stuff. But it's good to hear things like that, and we don't have that anymore. Before, you know, when we were in, just a quick example of boot camp, if a kid would walk by, and I'm talking a teenager from 14 to 18 years old, would walk by any adult probation officer or even a clerical staff, support staff, they would stop, come to parade rest until you pastor said carry on or excuse them, just like you would in a military setting. Now they don't even know how to speak to you. They'll spit on you. They'll yell at you. You know, you guys are on there, and the social media thing. Everybody's on, you know, arguing with sheriffs over a simple, you know, pull over and, you know, can I see your ID? And then you know you go through this whole dialogue that's entertainment for, you know, all these different websites and stuff. So life has changed, and I think it's a barrier for us to be as successful as we once were. We're still good at what we do. We were better, I think, in the past, and that's just my personal opinion, because we were able to really, you know, we became their parents. You know, we became that. If it wasn't for the men and women that worked in these places, these kids would know how to change a sprinkler, paint a bedroom. We taught them, you know, to build a doghouse. You know, things that we do and we take for granted as regular, everyday people that we do at home, and things. We taught them all those things because they were absent, you know, parenting and things of that nature, and now they're doing it. You know, that kid learned to work at the gas company because he learned some vocational tools back then, and he was able to progress and use those, and there's many like him. So that's the rewards. Now, with mental health and challenges in custody, you know, we're finding, it's like junior prison and juvenile halls now, unfortunately. We're finding all kinds of makeshift weapons, confrontations with kids are different. I was in there last week, and you know, kid just wants to just, you know, talk crazy to you, and it's like, where's this all coming from, you know? And it's just behavior, and it's a social thing. It's not just an incarceration thing. It's everywhere, unfortunately. We've lost our manners, I think, to some degree. But you know, we're going to try to get through it. You know, there's talk that they're going to replace probation officers through. I think there's a new job, so if you're all looking for a job, it's called ambassador. There's no background check. They're paying a lot more money, 2 years experience working with the youth,
And I think what they're gearing toward, and I'm okay with it, me personally, I see the reason. I just feel like it's undermining what we have over the years accomplished. I think they want people with street experience to talk to these kids and work with these kids so the kids can relate to some degree, which makes it understood. But in my opinion, there's a lot of successful people in this world that grew up on the streets, me being one of them, knowing how to relate with these kids without having to be, without going through some formal training and process that we have other than just life experience. I think most of us have life experience and we went a different direction, but I don't get to make the rules. I just have to try to make my team as strong and as good as they can, and fortunately I have a very good team. That's why I'm still not retired. Anything else for me? Thanks. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you, and thank you for sharing that positive story. It's good to hear that. Yeah. Okay, next up, I don't believe, we don't have CHP here today, do we? No? Okay, District Attorney, Mr. Sherwood.
Good morning. So about a year ago, I started trying to get from my office some more crime-specific statistics to be sort of complementary of the Sheriff's Department, so you would have a better idea instead of just giving you raw numbers. So I've got about a year of stats now, so I think starting probably next month, what I'll do is take out the highest number, maybe the lowest couple numbers to get a yearly average, and then report the yearly average and then what the monthly number was, so you get an idea about, and these are, obviously these are felony cases filed in our office that are out of the Lancaster Sheriff Station, so it's not including CHP. CHP covers Palmdale and Lancaster, so I'm trying to give you as best as I can Lancaster specific stats. Also, they don't necessarily reflect crimes committed during that month. So if a case was presented to us that occurred in May, it may be presented to us for a warrant. So it might not get, it may be a crime that occurred a month before or something like that, and it took them a month to track the person down and capture them and then bring the case over to us to be filed. So, but I think it does give you a general idea in terms of the crimes, if there's been a particular increase in filing of a particular type of crime, then it will be, I think it will be representative of that. So, so for example, arsons, we haven't filed an arson case since April of 2022, so we just aren't filing those right now. Auto burglaries, we filed exactly 11 for the months of April, May, and June, and then 17 in July. So that just gives you an indication that for the month of July, we had an increase in the number of auto burglary cases that we ended up filing. Burglary, I've broken those down into residential and commercial. I don't see very many commercial burglaries presented to our office for filing anymore, simply because most of those were cases that occurred in businesses that were open. Those are all petty thefts now by law, so we don't file too many commercial burglaries. Basically, those are going to be businesses that are broken into at night, and when you can go in during the day and take up to $950, that tends to be the crime that I see more, rather than commercial burglaries. And then so these are going to be mostly residential burglaries. So we had in May, I know it's been a few months since we've met, but in May we had 6, in June we had 9, and then in July we had 12. So that's the most we had, most number of those types of burglaries that we filed in the last year. Criminal threats, those tend to be associated with domestic violence cases. So what I'm doing is I'm noting by incident. So if you had a domestic violence incident where somebody was battered and there was also a criminal threat, I'm treating that as a domestic violence incident as opposed to a domestic violence incident and a criminal threat. I think that's a better representative of the type of the criminal incidents rather than just the number of charges, because you could have one incident with a bunch of charges and it might indicate that there's more criminal activity actually going on than there really is. So, so criminal threats is a relatively low number. We had 4 in May, 1 in June, and 3 in July. Drug sales, I don't see very many drug sales. It seems like we used to have. In May, we filed 8. In June, we filed 5. In July, We filed 3. The narcotics unit is their own separate unit. They tend to bring their cases over in bulk, so they'll get 3 or 4 cases, 5 cases, and they'll bring them over all at once instead of as they occur. At least that's the way it seems to me. Domestic violence, we've seen an increase in July, so there were 5 incidents in May that we filed, 8 in June, and then we filed 12 in July. So we have seen an increase in those cases. I started keeping track of evadings because I noticed it seemed that we were having a lot of 10851s, and those were turning into evadings because for reasons that we've discussed previously. Although in July we didn't file a single evading case. We filed 2 in June and only 1 in May. So that doesn't seem to maybe be as big of a problem as I thought. Felony assaults, those include with a gun or with a weapon or by force likely to produce great bodily injury. Those tend to be, we file a lot of those cases. In May was 14, in June 15, and then July 16. And that's been pretty consistent over the past year. Felony DUIs, that was another area that I was concerned about, and I wanted to sort of track those and see how those were coming along. But again, those seem to be a very low incident crime, felony DUI. So that would be a situation where there was an accident involving an injury that rose to the level of a felony, or somebody that had multiple this would have been their 4th DUI. So this is not misdemeanor DUIs, these are only felony DUIs, and we didn't, let's see, 1 in July, 1 in June, 2 in May. So again, not very many. Grand theft, and I've sort of included identity theft in that because identity theft is a big problem. I see a lot of those cases. There were 11, we filed 11 in May, 7 in June, and only 4 in July. Illegal firearms, those tend to be a lot of illegal firearms. We get those a lot, and and those are mostly felons with firearms. So that's predominantly what we're talking about here, are people with felony convictions stopped and found in possession of a weapon. We filed 25 in May, 13 in June, and 18 in July. Murders and attempted murders, and I've just grouped those together. Not very many. Obviously, we didn't file any in July, 1 in June, and 2 in May. Robberies, been pretty consistent over the year. 6 in May. We did have 12 in June, which was a lot. And then we filed only 7 in July. That's about the average. Sex crimes, those again tend to be a relatively small number. We did file 12 of those types of crimes in May, and I think those were mostly child pornography cases. Sometimes the sheriff's department will conduct a sting operation and we'll get sort of a bunch of child pornography cases that'll come in. And I seem to recall that's what was going on in May, because we did end up filing 12 cases that I categorize as sex crimes, either involving adults or children. Because we only had 4 in June and then only 3 in July. Vandalisms, tracking felony vandalisms, this is vandalism over $450 in damage. Those a lot of times are associated with domestic violence, but a lot of times they're people with mental health issues, breaking windows and things of that sort. And there's not a lot of those. We did file 4 in May, 4 in June, 6 in July. So those are the crimes that I'm tracking, trying to use the same types of crimes that the Sheriff's Department is tracking to hopefully give you some indication of where we're going in terms of filings. And that's all I got.
Any questions? I'll just go back to what I discussed with the captain earlier, with some of these changes coming up, and seeing more prostitution, just to see if you guys working together and all that to try to get, especially the victims, into diversion programs. Not just about keeping it off the street, that's a part of it, but also helping the people that are being trafficked.
I don't think we file prostitution cases. I think those are have to go double check our guidelines, but I don't believe those are crimes that we're prosecuting. We do have a unit that specializes in human trafficking, so I know they do try to work with the prostitutes, because as we talked about, they do tend to be people who have been trafficked. And so we don't. If it becomes an issue where it's a quality of life issue for the city, or we need to start prosecuting those cases for some reason, or there's a particular problem, I can certainly, we have exceptions under our guidelines that would allow us to look into and prosecute those cases if it becomes an issue that we need to address.
Great. Okay, thank you very much. Let's see, oh, we have our new Public Safety Director, Mr. Armelin. Well, welcome, sir.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Commissioners and Chair, it's good to be here with you today. Thought I'd just start by giving you a little bit about myself. So I'm 34 years, or almost 35 years of law enforcement experience. I did 32 years with LA County Sheriffs, retired as a captain. John actually worked for me at a couple different assignments. So good thing about that is I know all the sheriffs, so we all get along. We got great communication. Bad thing about that is I know all the sheriffs, so they're teasing and messing with me all the time. So but we've started this out with a really good relationship, and the communication has been outstanding. So I'm really appreciative of that. But while in law enforcement, and I'm sorry I didn't add the last 2.5, almost 3 years, I was the chief of police in Sierra Madre, just on the other side of Pasadena. So, my law enforcement experience, my expertise has been in community engagement, homeless, emergency management. It's been a great career, and I've worked a multitude of positions. And I think that experience is going to do me well here working as your public safety director. One more thing I really like to do is recognize this incredible staff that the city has placed me with. These folks took me in and have basically been educating me, and I want to thank all of them. They're outstanding. I'm lucky to have them in place already. So I see great things coming with them at my back. So, we're going to be doing some different things here. The city has decided they want to come up with a hybrid program, and I got to tell you, I think it's absolutely warranted here in our city. We need to have a piece within public safety that can aid our friends over at the Sheriff's Department in bringing safety to the city. So as we proceed, I'm going to make sure that I inform you guys on how that's going to go forward. I am just getting my feet up underneath me and learning all the pieces that are already in place and the issues that we have within the city. I think in development of this hybrid program, we're going to be able to have an effect on some of this. We're going to be able to help our brothers and sisters at the Sheriff's Department in improving things like response time, dealing with some homeless issues. I can tell you right now, something that's near and dear to my heart, because I came up as a youth in Los Angeles, is the parks. And I feel like we've got some serious issues in our parks. We're going to put a program together that deals with that. It's one of the things I want to jump on right away. I want to make sure the city's able to assist, or public's able to assist, public safety is able to assist the Sheriff's Department in dealing with some of the issues like we spoke about earlier, the prostitution, and ensuring that we're identifying and paying attention to businesses that might be helping that illegal activity continue in our city. So there's quite a bit to this hybrid piece. We're going to also bring in some social services aspects to that, so that as we identify and deal with these problems, we're looking for a complete cure. We're trying to identify what the root cause is and find a way to affect that so we can make some of it go away. So, I wanted a chance to kind of pass on some of the things that we are doing. So you'll find with me, community engagement is huge. It has been throughout my career. I look for opportunities every which way. In fact, I just hit up Deputy Green and said, hey, can I get 5 minutes at your next community academy? You know, we want to find every way we can to deal with and contact the community. The only way we're going to be really good at public safety is if we hear the community's voices. So we're looking for ways already to do that. In fact, thanks to my staff's help, we already put out business surveys to the Boulevard District so that we can get their voices on what the problems are there and what's going on. So those surveys were sent out, and hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we'll get them back. We'll make you aware of what we find out through that, and we're going to use that to work with the sheriffs to deal with issues in the downtown area. Community surveys are going to be going out to different parts of the city as we proceed. So, and trying to get that information, because if we can't hear what's bothering our community, then we're never going to fix it. So you'll see that. You'll also see that we're going to up our social media aspect and use that powerful communication tool to get info out to our citizens. Use it as a feedback for us as well, because there are those out there who aren't going to want to call us, who aren't going to want to come see us, and who aren't going to want to communicate with the sheriff's department either. So we have to figure a way to where they can also let us know and feel comfortable in it. So, but you'll see here real soon, we're going to use that, that powerful tool to increase our block clubs. Unfortunately, I was told the city at one time had over 200 block clubs. So as soon as I got here, I got with my staff and said, okay, let's find our block clubs, because obviously due to COVID, we haven't had any meetings. So we literally called up every block club captain listed on this 200 and 220, I think it was, or something like that. Unfortunately, that number's dwindled down to about 50. And part of that is COVID. Part of it is probably just lost over the years, because some of the folks obviously were bad numbers. Some folks said, I don't want to be a part of it anymore. But we're going to work hard to increase those numbers. In my years of law enforcement, everywhere I've worked, we use that effectively to work with the community, to make their streets and areas and communities safe. So we're going to try to ramp that up. No, we are going to ramp that up, and we are going to increase those clubs. I'm happy to tell you that next Thursday, we're going to have a block club captains meeting. And I think we're doing it right here, right? Thursday, the 18th. We'll get that time to you in case any of you want to come by. And those 50 people that we have who are still interested, we're going to bring them in and thank them and start our relationship and our communication with them. Oh, I'm sorry, I almost forgot to mention National Night Out. So you might have seen we just did that. And I got to tell you, I was so pleased. The turnout was tremendous. My staff worked hard in making that happen. There was a lot of folks who came out. We had a bunch of exhibits and a bunch of vendors. And we actually gave away 4 bikes that were donated to us by Walmart and Target. So we gave away 4 bikes to kids. It was a really good event. The one thing that really caught my eye that I have to admit, I don't think I've worked in a community where I saw it to this degree, is the diversity in our community. It's incredible. It's really a wonderful thing to see, and it was great to see all these cultures out there commingling and having a good time. So I'm really excited about that. And I have to let you know that my staff talked me into getting into the dunk tank at this thing. So, and I also want you to know, I challenged my brother over there to get in, and he turned me down.
That's not correct. Thankfully, he broke the tank before my turn came up.
That is true. That is true. I broke the tank, so. But it was a really good time, and I hope we get to see some of you at some of the different events. Please reach out and let me know personally if there's anything we can do. And I just ask you to take a look at what's coming, because there's going to be some good things happening. So, can I answer any questions?
What is your direct line?
Well, I'll tell you what, sir, after the meeting, I'll give you my cell number.
Yeah. Welcome aboard. Thank you so much. We're
right.
looking forward to it.
As am I. Thank
Yeah,
you.
welcome aboard. We are looking forward to it.
Thank you.
I like your energy.
Thank you, sir. All right.
So I was just going to say, such a difficult problem, not only here, but I think all communities are now suffering from the problem of homelessness, right? Where you have this cycle of mental health, particularly meth and homelessness, and it's a very difficult problem to solve. The meth is such a terrific drug for this problem because it's very cheap, and it produces very bad behavior, and very hard to get off of, very hard to get off of. You know, I talked to Mr. Sherwood about this in the past. Is there a way to, probably the only time people actually get free from meth is when they're incarcerated. So this cycle is just, you mentioned the parks, and it's one of the probably most complained about problem that communities are facing now is this infestation of homelessness, in the sense that it bothers everybody's appreciation of their community. Where do you go with that? What do we do?
You know, honestly, sir, it is a problem here, and it's going to require, you know, I've had great experience in it, and I was actually the Sheriff's Department lieutenant who established their host team, their homeless services team, and wrote a curriculum that's used in law enforcement to teach them how to deal with these issues. It's definitely not a singular agency problem. It's going to require law enforcement. It's going to require public safety. And we're going to have a social services piece in there to try and address and get folks out of there or off the streets. I've got a really good relationship with LASA already, the LA Homeless Services Authority. And in fact, I've talked to one of the directors, because one of the things I'd like to happen is get a LASA person assigned specifically to Lancaster. They work in something called spas now, where they've got these different areas that they oversee with a few team members. Well, I think we're big enough, and we have enough people who are living on the streets up here to have our own LASA person assigned, if nothing else, during a portion of the year, let's say summertime, when it's most dangerous out there. So, but it's going to have to be a combined effort, and I'll tell anybody who asks, it's definitely not going to be an overnight thing to bring a solution. But I do think that we have the pieces. We've got an incredibly supportive council, and so I feel like we can have some type of effect on it. But it's going to take time, and give us a minute to evaluate it, see what it looks like, see what resources we have out there, and we're going to come up with some ways to deal with it.
Obviously, I'm from the emergency department at Antelope Valley Hospital, so we interface with these folks regularly. Mm-hmm. And so if you, in the future, it would help to include us in a discussion, because the question is, they come in, usually they're overdosed or something like that. Where do they go? How do we discharge them? It's a huge tap on resources at the emergency department, and very hard to find discharge, appropriate discharge. So we're happy to help, and if it would be of any help.
That'd be great, and it would probably be a good, I don't know, we'll have to consider some type of communication we can establish, so we understand what's going and coming from there, and you never know, maybe there's a way where we come up with some type of process where we can find some way to contact as that release is happening. But thank you. No, I think that'd be wonderful for us to work together.
Oh, I know, Vice Chairman, I don't know if you want to touch base on some of the issue we were having with the trespassing on the vacant lands that we had talked about prior to fill him in.
As far as,
Well, I'm just giving a background on issues we talked about.
as far as the trespassing, as far as the cannabis, or
Oh, I guess,
Yeah.
anything. I don't know, you were, we hadn't talked about it in a while, but we had formed one of our subcommittees on it, but we were waiting for the new director to be on board.
I
so-
think, let's wait until next meeting on that.
Okay.
If that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I have some other notes that I'd want to bring up on that.
Okay,
so.
that sounds good. Yeah, I would say just to touch base on a couple of, just to, highlight a couple of issues we've talked about in the past that were concerned. Obviously, the cannabis enforcement from the organized crime groups on the east side. misdemeanor enforcement, under the, some of the areas that the district attorneys aren't covering under the new policies, but ways that the city could maybe get involved and help with that as it leads to quality of life issues. I know we touched on some of the problems connected with homeless, vandalism, sometimes harassment at local businesses. And of course, Dr. Brown talked about the ER, some of those challenges. Those are just a few of the big issues we've talked about the last year and a half that we want to kind of help come up with some creative solutions that we can use to improve the quality of life here. So look forward to working with you on that, and thank you very much, and welcome.
Thank you, sir, and that's good. If I can just say, we had a meeting yesterday, in fact, with the Sheriff's Department, narcotics, our code enforcement, and others, to talk about dealing with this cannabis issue and ensuring that we're going to work effectively as a team. And that was a great meeting. I think we came up with an enforcement plan that's going to help us out. And then the misdemeanor filings, part of this hybrid plan is to see what we can do with a city attorney position, because those filings have to happen. They absolutely do. Misdemeanors may actually be, it probably is the most prevalent thing happening here in the city. So, and like you said, those misdemeanors and the vandalisms are the ones that, it's the broken windows theory, of course, but they're the ones that are happening in places where we want our citizens to be able to go and feel safe, like the parks. So we're going to come up with enforcement plans for dealing with those.
That's great. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, state legislative, or actually, I should just say legislative updates. Ms. Owens from Congressman Garcia's office. Yes.
Well, good morning, everyone. Jackie Owens with Congressman Garcia's office, and I had to come out from behind my timeout corner over there. So now that I can see everyone, Chairman Mercy and Commissioners, thank you for your time this morning. Just in the way of a little bit of a short history, Congressman Garcia came into office in 2020. He won the seat in a special election. Very, very shortly after we opened up our office, we were getting a number of calls from residents on the illegal marijuana grows. And because it was legal in California, it sort of was, the misconception was, oh, it's just a little pot problem, and it's not that big a deal. So I sat with residents and continued to put reports together, and then the congressman met with a number of residents in Pear Blossom, because predominantly a lot of the outdoor grows were in the Eastern Valley. And as time has evolved, and I want to say thank you for the support of the city, as well as the LA County Sheriff Villanueva has been phenomenal. Congressman Garcia brought it to Sheriff Villanueva's attention, and the sheriff was able to take an aerial flight over the Antelope Valley. The congressman had done that about a month earlier. And the takeaway for the congressman on that aerial flight was that he said he's done many flights over the Middle East, did Afghanistan and Iraq, and he talked about the berms of the drug growths in heroin, I guess it is, in the Middle East. And he said he just remembered flying over and seeing that. And then when he took the flight over the Antelope Valley, it was like a deja vu, just how profound those grows were. And so he went back to Washington, worked really, really hard to see what he could do to assist the LA County sheriffs in this matter. Talked to Attorney General Garland, addressed it to the FBI. We've met with the DEA. And a couple of things kind of came out of that is the DEA has been very, very supportive. They were able to get a grant for, I think, 3 years, correct me if I'm wrong, for the marijuana eradication team that helped to really supplement that team with what they needed. It's just been a perfect storm, as we all know. It's a time when it's really popular to defund the police, and it's like a green light for every bad guy. And so if you've got an illegal marijuana grow and you're stealing the water, you're stealing the land, and let's just say the sheriffs come around eventually and knock down your grow, that's just the cost of doing business. The return for your investment outweighs any loss. And in many cases, those grows were coming back in 30 days or so. So it is just, I just have to boast, if I can, about the marijuana eradication team, a lot, led by the narcotics detectives and the LA County Sheriffs. They've been phenomenal to work with. My only complaint is, Captain, I haven't gotten up in the helicopter yet. Just saying, just let it be noted. No, but they have been, they've been incredible. They have been incredible. It was whack-a-mole. And I just have to share that because the fact that they would get their uniforms on and go out there every day and still go after this problem, and it has so many tentacles. Again, the misconception in our community, and I get the calls all the time, oh, it's just a marijuana problem. You guys, why aren't you going after fentanyl? Well, the truth be told, according to the FBI, it's a transnational criminal organization. And there's primarily three nationalities, one of them being the Chinese. And the Chinese are using the funds from these illegal grows, the $1 billion that are coming out of these illegal grows, to come back in through Mexico to bring the fentanyl over. It's just one of the ugly facets of these illegal grows. It's so much more than just a pot problem. For the record, the congressman is not against legal pot. He's against the illegal black market. There's human trafficking involved. There's water thefts in a time when we can't afford to lose water. These folks are going in and actually jury-rigging some of these wells from abandoned properties and just stealing millions of gallons of water from our residents. There's no employee rights. There's been just these people come over across the border illegally and work in these grows. Not all of them are Mexican. Perhaps that's another misconception. There's a number of Chinese coming over. But the conditions are horrendous. So there's just a horrible human condition going on there. And these folks have no rights, no power, no authority. So again, it's something the congressman heard loud and clear, and he's been working really, really hard to do this. So kind of progressing in the story here, one of the challenges for the LA County Sheriff was there was a cap, a $19,000 overtime cap for the deputies. And early on, the marijuana eradication team, these funds would be reached around August. So from August until January, there was no activity from LA County Sheriffs. They had exceeded their funds. And of course, that was a great growth opportunity for the bad guys. So just last June, the congressman was able to get a bipartisan support in the House through the committee, and the 19,000 cap has been lifted for the year 2023, which is good news for our deputies. He's still committed to seeing this through. And again, I just want to say thank you to Sheriff Villanueva and our partners in LA County Sheriff for their tireless efforts. You know probably that the most recent second raid in June was quite successful. And they, according to what the sheriff stated, he was hoping to have these eradicated by sometime in the fall. So anyway, I will stop there. That's my report. If anybody has any questions. All right, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Appreciate the congressman's leadership on that. Okay, Mr. Cannon from Senator Wilk's office.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, and I apologize to Pam in advance if I'm about to say everything or a lot of what she's about to say. So just a little update of where we are in Sacramento. The legislature has reconvened after the summer session. That was as of Monday, the 1st of August. Policy hearings have ended at the end of June, so there's no action on any legislation in that month or anything during the recess of July. The bills with fiscal impact, like that impact the budget and stuff like that, are being considered and need to be considered in both houses. But they're in appropriation committees right now on August 12th. Some of the bills that the senators have co-authored and supported in the budget process include the ACA, or actually, let me back up. He did not support this. This was a bipartisan proposal. The ACA 3, which would have amended the state constitution to remove involuntary servitude as a form of punishment. The reason why this got bipartisan opposition is because of the impact it would have on programs that we have in our prisons, especially the prisons that we have locally here in the county, and how that works. And it would have also required those people in those programs to be paid a minimum wage, which would have put a big strain on the economy. Another big thing that was in that package was that the senator introduced legislation that would help address homelessness crisis, which would be part of a larger package of almost a dozen bills by Senate Republicans, Senate and Assembly Republicans. SB 1353 would require additional reporting by the governor and local governments on how many homeless individuals are there, what they need, whether it be mental services or medical services, and how they became homeless to begin with. The lack of hard data makes it hard for local governments, state governments, and organizations like nonprofits to actually get to some of the things we talk about, root causes of homelessness, and to solve the problem. So we're really excited about that, but that bill was held in committee. There is a deadline. If a bill does not pass by 2 years or a year, it gets held over to the next session or the next year, and that is one of the bills that has happened with. Another Senator Wilt co-authored legislation that affects our communities would be a Senate Bill 2421, which would empower county council to address water theft and environmental damage from illegal cannabis grows. Those contents were included in the state budget. Other than that, I do want to let you guys know that Senate Bill 357, when it comes to the soliciting with intent, Senator Wilk did vote against that. That did pass already, so I just want to let you guys know his voting record on that, and I am here for any questions.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Ms. Balch with Assemblyman Lackey's office.
Yes, thank you so much. And the Assemblyman also voted no to SB 357 in his public safety role. He could not see fit to pass that on. The Assemblyman sent a letter to the DOJ regarding the crime report that has been down for months, and those metrics are critical to measure progress across the board, and Lackey will continue to ask questions until this is resolved. He did get an immediate response from Bonta, but it was not, it didn't solve it. It just explained why they couldn't tell us the report, so he will keep working on that. The 4 a.m. bar bill that I had reported on earlier, the Assemblyman is actually making a stand today with some members outside of the Capitol, and is hoping that he can gain some momentum to see this opposed again. There is opposition mounting. The Los Angeles County Democratic Party in late June voted to oppose the measure. Last week, Fresno Mayor Jerry Dwyer withdrew his city from the pilot program, citing recent anxiety on a local level about increased drunk driving and deaths. And on Friday, the Los Angeles City Council voted to oppose the bill, arguing it wasn't an improvement over a 2018 version vetoed by then Governor Jerry Brown. The pilot cities currently, Cathedral City, Coachella, Fresno, Oakland, Palm Springs, West Hollywood, and the city of San Francisco are in the pilot program, and the vote is coming soon. So we appreciate your continued watch on that, and if anyone has any stories they want to share on that with the Assemblyman, why you oppose it, he would be happy to talk to you about that. Also, there was a call to veto SB 57, which is a measure that would authorize several California cities to operate drug dens that would provide addicted individuals with sterile needles and other consumption supplies for pre-obtained drugs. While drug addiction is a growing and serious problem, this bill will create state-sanctioned drug use facilities with no requirements that participants enter treatment or that staff be medically certified beyond CPR and first aid. This bill is a distraction from the real need for long overdue efforts to provide state-funded and operated effective drug treatment programs. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I just wanted to also add something to our legislative update, which would be another Senator Will co-authored legislation, Senate Bill 1062, which would require CAL FIRE to maintain a standard minimum level of staffing for each of its fire engines without regular practice or forcing overtime on its personnel. And this bill would require CAL FIRE to increase its existing field crews as well. This bill would also require the department on or before January 1st, 2024, to provide the legislator a long-term staffing plan to meet the new era of wildfire firefighting, and that bill is pending in the Appropriations Committee.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions for Assemblyman Lackey's office? Okay, moving on. We have public business from the floor on non-agendized items.
This is okay? Sorry. This is the time to address the Lancaster Criminal Justice Commission on non-agendized matters. Speaker cards can be found on the back table of the council chambers. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each unless a different time limit is announced. State law prohibits the commission from taking action on items not listed on the agenda. Thank you.
Okay, we have one speaker card, Anita Boardlemay, if I hope I pronounced that correctly.
I know Jesus wanted me here today because of everything I've heard you guys speak about. I am really amazed at the police department, though. My name is Anita Boardlemay. I've lived in this city for about 15 years, I believe. I moved out here in 2005 to get away from human trafficking from the Valley and a family called the Chavez, who took my daughter from a school, which is a federal crime, and LAPD refused to do anything. I moved out here believing that Rex Paris and everyone here was for the best interest of people. I have been targeted by the Mexican mob and a company called Valterra Products. It is a company connected to the industry that the city of Lancaster, LA County sheriffs, have not only refused to investigate, but after I reported them, I was told that they were going to set me up and my daughter. They kidnapped my daughter, LA County sheriffs, put her in custody. I hired a private investigator through the company, through the lawyer that was hired in her case, okay? And you know what ended up happening? They stole $37,000. My house has been robbed 4 times in 2021. And every time I ask an LA County sheriff to show up, they deny me. They've come in and vandalized the inside of my house, telling me that I better sell my house to the Mexican mob because of what I did. This isn't just drug trafficking. They've come in my house and bragged about bringing children. Then guess what happened? The same neighbors that bragged, all of a sudden I was criminally charged in 2017. Okay, I'm a law-abiding citizen. The dude came to my house with his fists up with a registered sex offender who had already assaulted my granddaughter at the age of 8. I'm really glad that all you guys seem to care about this city, but I haven't seen one thing. So what did I do? I was assaulted by an LA County sheriff named Corey Games. After my camera was broken, in 2017, I was trying to fight this criminal case because I knew I was innocent. I was denied a trial. And then the judge, Gorbachev, actually straight out of the courtroom said, I'm going to force you to plea because I know why Corey Games came to your house on this date, and I know why your camera was broken first. I have sued the city, tried to get my money back so that at least I can move, because who would want to stay in a city? Oh my God, all this stuff. And then what ended up happening is my family members turned me into a psychologist. The psychologist could not believe what the DA's office, Stephen Franklin, did to me. Said this is totally illegal. I'm still trying to get it investigated, and I'm suing probation. Because in 2020, again, sheriffs came to my house. One of them threatened me. And I was removed from my house. It is human trafficking what they're doing to me. And I want an investigation.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Commissioner comments? Dr. Brown?
Nothing.
Nothing at this time? No?
Okay. None for me, so we will, without objection, we will adjourn to our next regular